Flippin' badger fuck.
Oh, fucking cunt of a badger.
Is it recording now?
Yeah. Welcome back to Seekistan. Welcome to another episode of we made a video and then ye asked a question and then we answered a question and then somebody else asked a different question in the comments, and this is the product of that question. So Patrick Miller, a very loyal follower of Seekistan, I have to say, he's usually in the live stream comments very frequently. He says, as a serious question, how do you deal with nagging non-severe injuries? I've had minor pain in my right delt for a month, but it doesn't impede my training. Same with my left calf. Every couple of months it pops and I have to walk funny for a few days, then I'm back to normal. Obviously, an extended training pause for such inconsequential injuries seems counterproductive, and a GP would likely not be able to offer any medical advice beyond rest it. So, great question. As all of you regular watchers of the channel will know, we don't answer injury questions, and so the video can end here. But on a serious note, this is a kind of more general thing. We don't answer injury questions on this channel. We don't answer them on any other channels either. This we will deal with as a kind of general training musings, and hopefully you'll get something positive from it.
So first of all, I know we just said we don't answer any questions, but if your calf is popping and you have to walk funny, you definitely have to go get that looked at, because I have never heard of that happening. So the rule in general I'll apply to myself, or the recommendation will apply to people: if something is bothering you for more than 1 week, it's an issue. So it's the 1 week rule. You probably do the one session rule if you want it. So if a particular pain crops up during a training session, and if by this day next week and you followed your regular training session, the pain hasn't gone away, it's time to start addressing it. So you might say, why would you say that? Why 1 week in particular? In general, what we've learned through hard years of experience and coaching hundreds of athletes is that your body almost always lets you know if a repetitive strain injury is going to crop up several months beforehand. Now, of course, if something is an acute injury, if it's a ruptured tendon, a avulsion fracture, a broken limb, something like that, you'll know immediately, and you won't have to apply the 1 week rule because you'll be crippled and you'll know. So that in itself is kind of, self-serving, and that's fine. If you have repetitive strain injuries, or general OWIs as we like to call them, almost always your body will let you know well ahead of time. I'll give you an example. Last year, a lot of you would have seen, for example, from that Rebuilding Milo review I did, I was experiencing some knee pain. Several months before I had the knee pain, and I'm talking about 6 months beforehand, the quad tendon at the top of my kneecap, the insertion between that and the quad, was getting really tight after training, and I had no knee pain at this stage, bar this slight tightness. This wasn't really a pain, but it was certainly tightening up after training. At the time I was like, this hasn't happened before, and I knew at the time I should probably pay attention to it and address it. However, I didn't, and then lo and behold, several months later, I had knee pain that was coming from my hips, and I had to address that. And downstream, if I'd looked upstream earlier from where that tightness was coming, I was obviously developing some kind of just minor issue with my hip being just too tight. It was a very simple matter to fix initially. When I did get to addressing it, was I just had a difference between internal rotation on one side and external rotation on the other side, and after a few weeks, as Larry saw, was drastically reduced knee pain. If after a week or two of that tightness I should have addressed it, and I knew at the time, I literally was thinking to myself, I was like, I should probably pay attention to this because this is not ideal, but that's the experience you go through when you're lifting. So in most circumstances, and a lot of long-term athletes will tell you this, and you don't even have to be a high-level athlete, so you can literally be shit for 30 years, but everyone gets injured, and you'll know far ahead of time. Your body will let you know it's something. If your wrist is going to hurt, you'll probably have forearm pain beforehand, you'll have some minor pain slightly at certain points, but eventually until something gets worse. So the 1 week rule is a good way of being severe and kind of disciplined with yourself when it's time to address something. Now, what does addressing something mean? Well, that depends on your own knowledge of your own injuries, and probably you should go see someone who's sufficient if the pain is severe enough. Usually if things are not serious, if there's a minor pain, and these things crop up all the time across different sports, they'll generally go away after a few days. You'll just get a random pain, you might have slept weird, something like that. These things will go away. Pains come and go like that. But if it's an injury or something that's going to happen, it'll probably be there for more than 1 week. And if it is there for more than 1 week, I would encourage you to go assess it and see what's going on. It might be a very simple fix, or you may then head off a larger injury that could take you out of training for a lot longer. So you may have to alter training for a few days to fix it, as opposed to alter your training for 6 months to fix something if you let it go long enough.
So this all comes down to a very simple kind of cost-benefit analysis, right? So, Patrick, when you're weighing this up and you're talking about taking small amounts of time off or kind of resting it as being a preposterous solution, when you look at injuries and when you look at time lost due to injuries, which if you look at most papers on injury prevention, time lost due to injury is one of the main variables they look at. The chronic injuries are the things that really rob the most time from us. They're the things that rob the most progression from us. They lower the ceiling of our total possible achievements more than any amount of acute injuries ever seem to do with athletes, right? So chronic injuries, things that constantly pop up over and over again. You're talking about for every few months that thing in your calf pops up. You're talking about that shoulder being sore or kind of sore constantly. Taking a small amount of time off, right? So something simple like a broken arm, you're talking about 6 to 10 weeks off. Over the course of your career, 6 to 10 weeks is absolutely nothing, right? Whereas if you have aggravated the tendon in your pec, if you have a small amount of tendinopathy or tendonitis in your quadriceps tendon, you're talking about messing up 18 to 24 months of training through just not taking that step back. So it might seem preposterous in your own wording to rest something or to pull back immediately from training and have that kind of immediate cold turkey where you actually go and get something fixed. And it will be highly frustrating when you're not able to train. You'll feel like you're doing nothing productive by just giving your shoulder a chance to heal up. But most of the time, that is a very, very effective way or a very efficient way of making the most out of your training. Is just really immediately stopping, whether it's the one session or the 1 week rule like Gerf is talking about. You really need to just, as soon as something becomes an issue, you need to stop and fix that issue. Don't just keep trundling down the road with that kind of punctured or flat tire because you'll drastically affect things downstream. Probably one of the most important things I've learned over 24 years of playing sport is the difference between being sore and being injured. And although myself and Owen are talking about being conservative, we're talking about really looking after yourself as soon as something becomes an issue. There's a very, very distinct difference between soreness, achiness, possibly delayed onset muscle soreness from small amounts of muscle breakdown, just that general ache from training hard, and then an injury in itself. So when you talk about somebody having like a dull ache in their anterior deltoid, they might have a dull ache in their quads all the time. That could be possibly the beginning of some sort of tendonitis or some sort of tendinopathy. But a lot of the time, you have chronic weakness in a certain muscle group. That muscle group then struggles to keep up with that operational tempo or the overall training volume you may have. So a lot of the time you'll find people's quads will be deathly painful all the time when they're weightlifting because they might be very posteriorly dominant. Their quads might be quite weak, so then their quads are constantly trying to keep up and they'll always be sore. That's not an injury. And although it's a recurring pain or a recurring discomfort, it might be in the front of the shoulder if you're somebody who works at a desk all day and then you're trying to press quite heavy weights, you'll have that very, very frequent discomfort. You'll have that very frequent pain reoccurring over and over again. It's not that it doesn't need to be addressed, but it's not an injury. And there is a distinct difference here. It's not necessarily that one has to be acute and one may be chronic. It's not necessarily a level of pain which makes somebody injured or makes somebody sore. But instead you should probably look at it as in, is there a positive adaptation coming because of this? In the case of your calf, Patrick, it sounds like there's probably no positive adaptation coming because of it. But certainly for people who have quads that are very sore, you might have an upper back or a chest that's very, very sore. And that is a very important distinction for you to start drawing for yourself and kind of sorting that line in the sand of, no, I'm really sore from training and I was an asshole for the last 3 weeks and didn't sleep enough, eat enough or drink enough water and I pushed myself too hard, versus, okay, things aren't going the way they should be going and I need to take a step back and address something.
So the last thing I think you just need to be aware of for anyone wondering about when you are being a bitch and when you're being kind of a dumbass, you know. So it's just important to learn this, and usually just comes through experience. In general, I think you should err on the side of caution. More often than not, I see with athletes we coach, oftentimes they will say about pain too late. They'll let something go for a very long time and then it'll be a lot worse. And it's so annoying as a coach when someone's had maybe, you know, a 5 out of 10 knee pain for the last 3 months and they've said nothing. And then they're like, couldn't do my squats tonight. My knee was really sore. And you're like, oh shit, when did that happen? They're like, it's been pretty sore for the last few months. And it's like 8 out of 10 tonight. And you're like, you motherfucker. But so you need to find out the correct balance for yourself, and a lot of this will just come through experience, so it's hard to describe. I much prefer people take the slightly over cautious approach as opposed to the hyper meathead approach where you're just like, fuck it doesn't matter if I get injured, just plow ahead, I'll warm up at the bar. A lot of times tendonitis, for example, will start with, it was fine, my knees were fine until I warmed up and it went away, which is a classic sign of tendonitis, is the pain goes away after you warm up, which is, it's a little insidious pain, it's a terrible little thing. So you just need to be really good at balancing for yourself, you know, figuring out, am I being too cautious? Is that a little bit sore today? Am I being a bitch and I'm not going to do my session? Or am I being a dumbass? I shouldn't push ahead with this. I need to alter it. Because like Dara said, that short-term changing of a session for a week or two will pay off much better and be a lot less downtime as opposed to several months. You know, and I see it happen so much. And a lot of guys will know, a lot of you people watching will know, you'll have had tendonitis in one knee. You'll have pushed through for several months. You'll have pushed through for 6 months with it. Then obviously you'll have developed tendonitis in the other knee due to compensations and other reasons. And then now you'll have tendonitis in both knees. So eventually you'll be finally forced to address it. And the problem with some things, when they go too far, you can't immediately start addressing things. Sometimes you'll need to take quite a lengthy period of time off. You might need to take, 3, 4, 5 weeks of very, very light or minimal lifting because the pain is so bad and you need to let it reduce before you can really start your aggressive rehab. And so then you've got something like nearly half as long of the time of rehab as opposed to the time you've been out for. And I've genuinely seen athletes, a year or more being too pig-headed because they didn't address the pain soon enough. Now, on the other side of that, the flip side, I do see athletes who are too cautious. These are not very, very common, but there's certainly people out there. They're almost kind of hypochondriacs with some pains. Typically, you'll see this with some newer athletes, and it's not exclusive to untalented athletes. I've seen this with very talented athletes, people who are good lifters or good athletes or good whatever it is they're doing, where they'll be super kind of conscious, and oftentimes it does seem to hold back those talented athletes a little bit when they're super conscious of some particular things, they're super neurotic about it. But that's maybe a conversation for a different time. So just pay attention to your body, note it, learn from your experiences, probably be a little bit more cautious than you think you need to be in certain circumstances, because the biggest thing, like we talked about, the thing that holds people back loads is injuries more than maybe lack of talent or lack of dedication or lack of discipline. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. Merchandise is all in our hands. Every bit of merchandise we have,
it's all here.
It'll be released. It'll
Very
be on the website
soon.
within the next, I'm going to say next 2 to 3 weeks. Like, we literally have every piece of merchandise. The supply is limited because we started this order several months ago, and obviously things have grown a lot since. There's a huge demand for the merchandise. If you're a member of our programs here on the Facebook group, we will let people know the day before it'll be released. They won't have early access, but we'll know the time it'll be released on the website.
You'll have a massive advantage.
Massive advantage. But you won't be able to order ahead of time. For our regular viewers of the YouTube live stream and people who watch out for on Fridays, we will be doing a live stream when it's released. So the time it's released, we'll start our YouTube live stream. And so you guys, are the faithful people who watch the YouTube live stream every week, you'll have a chance as well to know. And will we have? No, we won't have a discount code for that. But you guys who watch the live stream, maybe we should get a live stream discount code.
We'll see.
For the regulars. We'll see how it goes. Maybe.
It'll all be gone within the hour of the live stream, I think.
Possibly, yeah. It probably will be all be gone. So there is women's size on certain things as well, of course. And we have our eye on a launch just women's own leggings as well, but we're looking for different suppliers. So don't worry about that one.
Don't worry about that.
Worry about
right now. We've got
t-shirts,
long sleeve, muscle fit t-shirts.
They're beautiful.
They are phenomenal. They are in 3 different colours.
Well, actually, most people are concerned about is the training pants. So we have our unique training pants, Seeker weightlifting pants. Well, they're training any kind of training pants.
Yeah.
But they're designed from scratch. You've seen me wearing some of the videos. I'm really happy with them.
No, they're great.
Yeah.
I can't wait to get them out to people. We have a zip up training top.
Yeah.
Like a tracksuit top. You'll see coaches wearing at competitions.
Yeah.
We have graphic t-shirts with
The Republic of Sikistan.
Republic of Sikistan on them in 2 different colours.
Yes.
And yeah, it's
That's
exciting
it for that,
times.
So we've blue, kind of olive green, and black for the long sleeves. There's kind of a dappled grey for the Republic of Sikistan, and there's just a hardcore black. The pants are only in black, and
the tops are only in black.
Tops are only in black. The launch will be up for a short period of time, so we won't have it up for months on end.
When it's gone because we're never using this supplier again.
Yeah, so once this is done, it's great stuff, but yeah, thanks for watching.